Most relationships don't work out because of lack of communication. When there's a problem or an argument and you don't talk about it, the problem won't go away on its own. When your significant other is mad at you and you ask them what's wrong, and they be like, you should know why I'm mad at you. And then you end up ignoring each other for a couple days until you're not mad at each other anymore. And then sometimes you don't go back and talk about the problems, talk about exactly why there was an issue or why they were upset. And because the problem was never talked about, the same problem just keeps happening. When something about the relationship is bothering you, or something that they do is bothering you, you have to talk about it. And sometimes they don't want to talk about it, but you have to let them know that we need to communicate in this relationship if we want to make it work. Sometimes you have to tell them the most important thing in a relationship is communication. And you have to tell them that you care about them and that you want to know what's wrong, so we could figure out a solution together. Because if this is a person that you're going to be with for the rest of your life, someone that you're going to marry, if you can't solve small issues, there's going to be bigger problems that arise in the future. There's going to be more stressful things. When you start a family, things are going to get more stressful. There's going to be more responsibilities. And if you struggle to communicate and you've already tried and you just realize that maybe the relationship isn't compatible, then perhaps y'all shouldn't be together, because you want to be with someone that you could solve problems with together and be able to understand each other. Because a lot of times marriages don't work out because people ignore all the red flags. Like when you try to talk about the problem and try to fix it, they just want to walk away, and it just feels like you're going through the same problem over and over again during that entire relationship. And if you can't solve a problem together, if you can't even talk it out about a small argument or a small disagreement, there's going to be bigger problems down the line, bigger issues, more responsibilities. So a lot of the times you'll get hints about whether or not the relationship will work out. And a lot of times people will ignore these small problems, and when they argue, they'll end up ignoring each other for a couple days. And then when things get better, they never talked about why they were mad. And sometimes when you're with someone for a long time, you feel like you don't want to start over. You feel like, I already put in so many years into this relationship, and sometimes you just think that you might as well just marry them. But that's not what you should do. You should be finding someone that you're genuinely happy with, that you're compatible with, that you can solve problems together with. And when you have an argument, you could talk about why you're upset and figure out how to solve the issue instead of just ignoring it. Because when you ignore a problem, it doesn't go away. It has to be fixed. And when people ignore red flags and they rush into marriage, it usually doesn't work out, because the problems in the future will build on top of the existing problems that y'all haven't resolved. So now you're stressing about old issues and old problems that keep arising on top of the new responsibilities that come with being married. And then it gets overwhelming, and there's a lot of stress and a lot of problems in that relationship, in that marriage, and it usually leads to a divorce. Just being in a relationship isn't the finish line. When you're in a relationship, it doesn't mean you have to marry them. If you find out that you're not compatible with them, then you shouldn't marry them. When you're in a relationship, you're really just testing out if y'all are meant to be. You should be with someone that you can communicate with, that you can solve problems with. And when there is a disagreement, you could talk it out. You can find a solution. Because if you're in a relationship where whenever a problem arises, all y'all do is just yell at each other or argue and never really get to a solution, then are y'all really compatible? Is this really someone you want to marry? Someone that you can't work out a problem? If you think about it, would you want to be business partners with someone that you can't solve a problem with together? That when there's an argument or there's a disagreement, y'all can't talk it out. It's probably not a good idea to be business partners with that person, because the business is going to fail. And that's the same concept that should be applied to relationships. If y'all can never work anything out, is this really someone that you want to be with? Probably not. A relationship is about working through problems, being happy together, and wanting the best for each other. And when there is an issue and y'all talk about it, try to understand each other. When they're talking, genuinely listen to why they're upset. Don't listen to respond. Listen to understand them and make adjustments. If your girlfriend wants you to take them out on a date more often because you haven't taken them out on a date in a while because you got too comfortable in the relationship, you should take them out on a date more often. It doesn't have to be every week, but maybe once a month. You have to be willing to work on the relationship even after getting comfortable, because at the beginning we put in a lot of effort, but you have to understand that's the reason why y'all fell in love in the first place. And when you're not putting in that effort, you have to think about it. She fell in love with the person that you were at the beginning of the relationship, and you used to treat her better. Then you need to keep that up and also work on it. A relationship isn't something that you just get into and just ignore and hope that it works out. You have to put effort to maintain the relationship. And that's with anything in life. Anything in life, if you want it to work out, you have to maintain it. Whether it's starting a business, having a friendship, you have to maintain these things. The business won't be as successful as when you did put in effort. What most people don't understand is it's not just about obtaining things or achieving things. You have to maintain it after you achieved it or after you've obtained it. If you're the fastest runner on earth and you've won gold medals in your competition, you have to keep practicing. You have to keep putting in effort, even if you're the most talented person in the world, to maintain that gold medal, to maintain first place. You have to keep putting in the work. Even playing video games, you have to practice and practice to stay ahead, to be the best. If you don't practice, eventually someone will become better than you. Someone who puts in more time will become better than you. And perhaps your skills will decline because you don't practice as much. You don't put in as much effort. In life, a lot of the rules can be applied to many things. And you're going to have to make constant adjustments because you're always trying to reach a balance. If you procrastinate too much this week, then at the end of the week, you should think to yourself, I procrastinated way too much this week. Next week, I'm gonna get things done. And then sometimes you're always getting things done, but you never double check your work. And you start making too many mistakes because you were rushing. You have to think to yourself, I need to take my time to double check my work so I don't make as much mistakes. So then you make that adjustment. So you're always trying to find a balance of getting things done and being efficient and double checking your work to minimize mistakes. And sometimes you might think too much and do too little. So then you have to find a balance and think about all that thinking, but I haven't gotten anywhere. Maybe I shouldn't think too much. What was the point of all that thinking? And you start putting in more work instead of spending all your time thinking and being stuck in your mind. And you're never gonna find that perfect balance. But it's all about making adjustments. Always making adjustments so you can become better than the person you were yesterday. It's not about comparing yourself to anyone else. But you also have to keep in mind that you have to adapt. Not every situation is the same. Sometimes you keep thinking about, I need to improve, I need to improve. Some things you already figured out. Some things are already going right. And you just have to keep doing what you're doing. Don't fix what's not broken. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. So you have to have awareness so you know what you need to work on and what is already working. And you just have to keep doing what you're doing. Most people understand what it means to adapt, but they don't really know how to apply it. What you have to understand is that perhaps the general rule is to use a specific tool in a toolbox for a specific situation. That tool is the best tool to solve that situation or solve that problem. But sometimes that situation might be unique. It might be similar, but it might be unique. And it requires a different tool in that toolbox to solve that problem. So it's about having the knowledge, having the toolbox, but using the tool that best applies to your situation to fix the problem. Just because a strategy or a plan works for someone else doesn't mean it works for you. You have to figure out what works best for you in your situation. And for a relationship to work out, you have to find someone that you're compatible with, someone that you can work out problems and disagreements and arguments. And you have to be able to make adjustments. There's some problems that don't need to be a problem. Some problems can be fixed with making an adjustment. For example, if you're always yelling at each other when there's an argument, maybe next time just talk calmly and try to talk about it without being emotional and try to talk it out. That might actually help improve the relationship and fix the problems because you're willing to talk about the problems. You have to know what the problem is to fix the problem. And the best way is to sit down and talk about each other's feelings and listen to understand each other and understand why y'all argue. Because it's easier to fix a problem when you understand the problem. And sometimes it's just as simple as understanding each other and understanding why y'all get mad at each other and try to work it out. And if you can't fix it, then perhaps y'all are not compatible. It's not just about getting in a relationship. It's finding out if you're compatible, and if you are, you have to maintain it. You have to put in effort. And if the relationship doesn't work out, just understand that that relationship is preparing you for the person you were meant to be with. You learn how to become better for your next relationship. Anything that doesn't work out in life is just a lesson. It's just a learning experience to prepare you for the person you were meant to be.